All right, so let's dive into something I know a lot of you have been wanting us to unpack, and that's fluoride.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, it's in our water, our toothpaste. It's seemingly unavoidable, but our listeners have sent over a ton of research that suggests it's not as simple as good for teeth. End of story.
Right.
So we're on a mission here to figure out a friend or foe.
You know what I think is really interesting is that, like, the conversation around fluoride often just gets stuck at those really basic benefits and risks.
Yeah.
But the articles you sent over go way deeper.
Okay.
They're raising questions about long-term effects, different alternative approaches, even like the ethics of it all.
Okay, so we're not doing a surface level chat here. We are going deep.
Yeah.
So to start, like
Yeah.
the classic benefit of fluoride that everyone knows is that it strengthens tooth enamel, it fights cavities, hence why it's in like every single dental product out there. But one of the sources that you sent over immediately pushes back on that,
Mm.
saying that that's the theory, but the reality is a bit more complicated.
Exactly, because it all boils down to dosage.
Okay.
This source points out that fluoride's effects really depend on how much you're actually getting.
Gotcha.
Tiny amounts, like what's typically in our tap water, might be beneficial, but as that dose increases, so do the potential problems.
So it's like a sliding scale of fluoride where things go from like helpful to harmful depending on where you land.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The source breaks it down into like levels, starting with what's considered like that normal exposure
Uh-huh.
from water and toothpaste. And even then it questions like, how significant those benefits really are.
Oh, wow.
It suggests maybe we overestimate fluoride's role in preventing cavities.
So even at the low end, the source is already like skeptical.
A little bit, yeah.
But what happens as we move up this fluoride ladder?
Well, at moderately elevated levels, you start seeing those cosmetic changes to the teeth,
Right.
those white spots or streaks.
Yeah.
It's called dental fluorosis.
Gotcha.
But then as the levels climb higher, we move beyond cosmetic concerns and into actual skeletal fluorosis. This is where fluoride builds up in the bones, and it can lead to stiffness, pain,
Mm-hmm.
and, in severe cases, even bone deformities.
Wait, so it's not just about teeth anymore.
Yeah.
We're talking about like our bones, our joints.
Exactly. Suddenly, fluoride sounds a lot more serious.
It can be, and it gets even more concerning at very high levels.
Oh, gosh.
The source mentions muscle weakness, neurological problems.
Wow.
It's like fluoride starts impacting your entire body, not just one little area.
It's like a whole body situation.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, though, these extreme effects usually happen with prolonged exposure
Yeah.
to very, very high doses, not something you'd encounter just from like brushing your teeth.
Okay, that's slightly reassuring,
Yeah.
but it does make you wonder how much fluoride are we really getting without even realizing it.
That is a key point the source raises. Yeah.
Yeah.
It lists all these like everyday sources of fluoride we might not consider, like black tea can have surprisingly high levels. Then there's seafood, there's certain processed foods.
Made with fluoridated water, it all adds up.
So even if you're diligently using fluoride-free toothpaste, you could still be getting a hefty dose from other sources.
Exactly.
And that's where things get tricky because you might be experiencing symptoms of excess fluoride without connecting the dots.
Right.
Symptoms, like what kind of subjects are we talking about?
Well, the source mentions things like fatigue, brain fog, even digestive issues.
Really?
It emphasizes that these are pretty general,
Yeah.
could be caused by a lot of things, but if you suspect you might have high fluoride intake, it's worth considering.
So it's like a puzzle, trying to figure out if those everyday aches and pains
Right.
could be linked back to fluoride.
Exactly.
This is getting complex.
And it's about to get even more interesting because the source doesn't just dwell on the potential problems, it goes on to explore some fascinating alternatives to conventional fluoride-based dental care.
All right, so less doom and gloom, more solutions. Tell me about these alternatives.
Well, the source is a big champion of xylitol, that natural sweetener,
Yeah.
often found in sugar-free gum.
Right.
But what's intriguing is it goes beyond just saying xylitol is good for your teeth.
Yeah.
It explains how it works.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty clever.
Oh, I love when we get into the how of things.
You too.
Break it down for me.
Okay, so firstly, when you consume xylitol, especially after meals,
Uh-huh.
it stimulates saliva production.
Okay.
Saliva is like your mouth's natural defense system,
Right.
helping to neutralize those nasty acids that attack tooth enamel.
Okay, so xylitol is like a saliva booster,
Yeah.
helping your mouth fight back naturally. I like it. What's the second mechanism?
This one's even cooler.
Okay.
Xylitol actually makes it harder for bacteria to stick to your teeth.
Hmm.
Think of it like this. Bacteria are constantly trying to latch onto your teeth
Right.
and form colonies called biofilms,
Uh-huh.
which are basically just a breeding ground for plaque and decay.
Ugh. Biofilms, plaque, definitely not what we want in our mouths.
Exactly. But xylitol disrupts this whole strategy.
Okay.
By making the bacteria less sticky,
Yeah.
it makes them easier to remove when you brush,
Gotcha.
so they can't establish those colonies as easily.
So it's not just about killing the bacteria, it's about making them homeless.
Yeah, like evicting them.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And the source even gives a specific dose for optimal benefit,
You
right?
do.
Oh,
6 to 7 grams of xylitol daily,
wow.
spread out throughout the day.
Okay.
So not only do we understand how it works,
Mhm.
but we also have this actionable information to take away.
All right. Xylitol, filed under natural dental superheroes.
Right.
But the source doesn't stop there, does it?
No.
There's a whole world of alternative dental care practices it explores.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get into next.
All right.
From ancient techniques to cutting-edge innovations.
Wow.
There's a lot more to discover on this journey beyond fluoride.
Well, I'm already feeling like my dental routine is about to get a serious upgrade. Can't wait to see what else we uncover in part 2.
Me too.
Okay, so we're back
Yes.
and ready to explore even more alternatives to fluoride. I have to admit, I'm already intrigued by this whole xylitol thing,
Right.
but the source mentions a whole bunch of other natural dental care practices
Yeah.
that caught my eye. Like, where do we even begin?
Well, one that stands out is hydroxyapatite.
Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
Hydroxyapatite, it rings a bell, but I can't quite place it.
Okay.
Refresh my memory.
So hydroxyapatite is actually the main mineral component of our tooth enamel. It's what gives our teeth their strength and resilience.
Oh,
And what's exciting is you can actually now find toothpaste and dental products that contain hydroxyapatite,
interesting.
which can help to remineralize and strengthen weakened enamel.
Okay, so it's like giving your teeth a direct boost of their building blocks.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense, but how does this compare to fluoride?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The source presents hydroxyapatite as like a non-toxic alternative to fluoride.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about those potential risks of fluoride?
Yep.
Accumulation in the body.
Yeah.
Well, hydroxyapatite doesn't pose those same concerns.
So it's like a gentler, more natural approach
Yeah.
to strengthening enamel without the potential downsides of fluoride.
Exactly.
I like where this is going.
And the source also highlights a few other practices
Okay.
that have been used for centuries to promote oral health, like oil pulling.
Okay.
Have you heard of oil pulling?
Oil pulling, I've definitely seen that trending online.
Yes.
What's the science behind it? Does it actually do anything?
Well, the source suggests that oil pulling can help to remove bacteria and toxins from the mouth,
Okay.
reduce inflammation, even freshen breath.
Hmm.
It's thought that the oil acts like a magnet,
Right.
attracting and trapping those unwanted substances.
Interesting. So it's like a natural detox
Yeah.
for your mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure I'm ready to swish oil around for minutes on end, but I'm definitely intrigued. What else does the source recommend?
It also touches on the importance of maintaining an alkaline environment in the mouth. You know how we talked about those harmful acids that attack tooth enamel?
Right.
Well, an alkaline environment can actually help to neutralize those acids,
Okay.
making it harder for them to do their damage.
So it's like a pH balancing act
Yeah.
for your mouth, but how do you actually create this alkaline environment?
The source suggests incorporating more alkaline-rich foods and drinks into your diet.
Okay.
Think leafy greens, vegetables, fruits, things that are naturally less acidic.
Gotcha.
And it also cautions against excessive consumption of sugary drinks and processed foods,
Yeah.
which tend to be very acidic
Right.
and contribute to that harmful environment in the mouth.
Makes sense. It's like we're coming back to that holistic approach where it's not just about what you put on your teeth, but what you put into your body.
Exactly, creating an overall environment that supports good oral health.
Right. Both inside and out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got hydroxyapatite, oil pulling, alkaline-rich foods. Any other surprises in the source's natural dental care toolkit?
Actually, there's one more that caught my eye.
Okay.
It mentions something called structured silver solution as a safe and effective way to cleanse your mouth of bad bacteria.
Structured silver solution, that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
What exactly is that and how does it work?
Well, from what I understand, it's a solution containing silver ions, which have natural antimicrobial properties.
Interesting.
The source suggests rinsing with it for a few minutes to eliminate harmful bacteria without harsh side effects.
So it's tapping into the natural antimicrobial power of silver?
Exactly.
Is this something you would find in a typical drugstore?
You might not find it alongside the conventional mouthwashes,
Oh, okay.
but it's definitely available online
Yeah.
and in some health food stores.
Okay, so it's a bit more of a specialty item,
Yeah,
but it sounds like it could be a valuable addition
it seems that way.
to a natural dental care routine.
And it really just highlights the fact that there are so many innovative and natural approaches to dental health emerging all the time.
Yeah. It's an exciting time to be exploring these options
It is.
and discovering what works best for each individual.
I agree. It's like a whole new world of possibilities
Yeah.
has opened up beyond the conventional fluoride-centric approach.
Right.
But before we get too carried away with all these natural remedies, I have to ask, what does the source say about the science behind fluoride?
Yeah.
Is it really as bad as some people make it out to be?
That's a question that deserves its own deep dive.
Right.
The source actually cites some research that raises concerns about fluoride's potential effects on the body beyond just the teeth.
Okay, so not just about cavities and cosmetic issues anymore.
Right, we're talking about more serious stuff.
We're talking more serious stuff, okay?
One study it mentions from the Journal of Basic Medical Sciences
Oh,
explored fluoride's potential impact on neurological function.
okay.
It highlights the possibility that fluoride, especially at higher doses, could act as a neurotoxin.
A neurotoxin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that's a scary word. What does that actually mean in terms of our health? Essentially, a neurotoxin is a substance that can damage or impair the functioning of our nervous system,
Right.
including the brain.
Okay.
The study suggests that fluoride might interfere with those delicate processes happening in our brain cells,
Wow.
potentially leading to cognitive issues, mood disturbances, and other neurological problems.
So we're not just talking about tooth enamel anymore. This is about our brains, our cognitive function. That's a whole other level of concern.
And the source doesn't stop there.
Oh, gosh.
It also cites research from environmental health studies
Okay.
that delves into the broader systemic effects of fluoride.
Okay.
This study links fluoride exposure to thyroid dysfunction
Mm.
and weakened immune response.
Okay, so it's not just about cavities anymore.
Right.
This is about our brains, our hormones, our whole defense system.
Exactly.
That's pretty serious stuff. Did the source go into any detail on how these problems actually happen in the body?
It didn't get into the nitty-gritty biochemistry, but it did explain that fluoride can interfere with various enzyme activities and disrupt cellular processes.
Enzyme activities, cellular processes, those are some pretty big words. Can you break that down for me? What does that actually mean in simple terms?
Sure, think of enzymes as like tiny workers inside our cells
Okay.
that carry out all sorts of essential tasks.
Hmm.
They help us digest food, produce energy, repair tissues,
Okay.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And cellular processes are basically all the complex functions that happen within our cells to keep us alive and functioning.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. So you're saying that fluoride can mess with these tiny workers and disrupt the way our cells operate.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the source explains that these disruptions can have cascading effects
Right.
throughout the body, potentially contributing to a wide range of health issues.
That makes sense. Our bodies are these incredibly complex systems, and if you throw a wrench in one part,
Yeah,
it's going to have ripple effects elsewhere.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the source also points out that fluoride can even damage DNA.
Damage our DNA. Okay, now that's really concerning. What are the implications of that?
Well, DNA is basically the blueprint of life,
Right.
containing all the instructions our cells need to function
Mhm.
properly.
Yeah.
When DNA gets damaged, it can lead to mutations,
Hmm.
which are basically errors in the genetic code.
Right.
And these mutations can increase the risk of various diseases, including cancer.
So we're talking about potentially serious long-term health consequences from fluoride exposure. This is definitely making me think twice about that fluoride rinse the dentist always recommends.
I understand your concern.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process. But remember, the source isn't saying that fluoride is inherently evil
Right.
or that everyone needs to completely avoid it.
Yeah.
It's about understanding those potential risks,
Right.
weighing them against the perceived benefits,
Yeah.
and making choices that feel aligned with your own values and priorities.
That's a good point. It's not about fear-mongering. It's about empowering ourselves with knowledge and making conscious decisions. But here's where I get confused. If fluoride is potentially so harmful, why is it still added to our water supply?
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to be for public health?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it's a source of ongoing debate.
Yeah.
The primary argument for water fluoridation has always been its effectiveness in preventing tooth decay,
Right.
especially in communities with limited access to dental care.
Okay.
The idea is that by adding fluoride to the water supply, you're essentially providing this low-dose treatment
Right.
to everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status or access to dental services.
So it's like a public health measure,
Yeah.
aiming for the greater good,
Yeah.
but the source clearly presents a counter argument, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It argues that the potential risks of chronic fluoride exposure, even at low levels, outweigh the purported benefits.
Okay.
It points out that rates of tooth decay have declined significantly in many developed countries, regardless of water fluoridation, suggesting that other factors, like improved oral hygiene,
Right.
dietary changes,
Hmm.
might play a more significant role.
That's a really interesting point. It's like maybe we've outgrown the need
Yeah,
for widespread water fluoridation if we're already doing other things to protect our teeth.
precisely.
Mm.
And the source goes even further,
Okay.
suggesting that water fluoridation is a form of mass medication
Yeah.
without individual consent.
Wow.
It raises ethical concerns about imposing a medical treatment on an entire population,
Right.
especially when there are potential risks involved
Yeah.
and alternative preventive measures available.
Whoa. Okay. Now we're getting into some philosophical territory.
Right.
I can see why this topic is so controversial. It's
Yeah.
not just about science, it's about personal freedom and choice.
Exactly. And it forces us to think critically about the trade-offs we're willing to make as a society.
Right.
Do we prioritize collective benefits, even if it means potential risks for some individuals?
Yeah.
Or do we emphasize individual autonomy and the right to choose what goes into our bodies?
Yeah.
These are complex questions with no easy answers.
Well, one thing's for sure, this exploration has certainly given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
I'm starting to see fluoride in a whole new light, not just as a simple ingredient in toothpaste,
Right.
but as a substance with far-reaching implications. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, and we're just getting started.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our investigation into fluoride,
Right.
but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah.
Next, we'll kind of shift gears a bit and delve into some practical strategies
Okay.
for minimizing fluoride exposure.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to get practical and empower our listeners to take control of their fluoride intake. Let's dive into part 3.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've really gone deep into fluoride. The potential risks, the benefits, the ethical dilemmas, it's a lot to take in. But I think what's most important now is figuring out what can we actually do with this information?
Yeah,
How can we take control of our fluoride intake?
that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that because the source doesn't just leave us hanging with all these concerns. It actually provides some really practical advice on minimizing exposure,
Okay.
starting with something we've touched on before, water filtration.
Right, because even if you switch to all natural toothpaste and you ditch the black tea, that tap water could still be a major source of fluoride.
Exactly, and the source is very specific here.
Okay.
It doesn't just say use a water filter.
Right.
It emphasizes getting one that's certified for fluoride removal.
Okay.
Not all filters are created equal.
So it's not just about slapping any old filter on your tap. It's
Yeah.
about being targeted in your approach. So what kind of filters are we talking about here?
There are a few different types that are effective at removing fluoride, like reverse osmosis systems, activated alumina filters, and some types of carbon filters. The source recommends doing a bit of research
Yeah.
to find the best fit for your needs and your budget.
Okay, so step 1, understand your water situation. The source even suggests checking your local water quality report
Yes.
to see what that baseline fluoride level is.
Exactly.
And then if needed, invest in a filter that can tackle the problem.
Right.
What else can people do beyond water?
Well, the source goes on to talk about dental products, and this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It encourages a shift toward natural toothpaste,
Okay.
but not just any natural toothpaste.
Right.
It specifically recommends those containing xylitol,
Uh-huh.
and of course, fluoride-free.
Okay, so we've already talked about xylitol's superpowers, but I'm curious, what else should we be looking for in a natural toothpaste? Or maybe more importantly, what ingredients should we be avoiding?
That's a great point. The source emphasizes avoiding harsh chemicals often found in conventional toothpastes,
Okay.
like sodium lauryl sulfate,
Right.
SLS. It can be irritating to gums. Some people find it dries out their mouth.
So it's not just about what we're adding to our routine, but also what we're taking away.
Right.
What about triclosan? I remember that being controversial a while back.
You're right. Triclosan has been linked to some health concerns.
Yeah.
And while it's less common in toothpaste now,
Uh-huh.
it's still worth checking labels.
Right.
Basically, the source encourages a less is more approach.
Yeah.
Simple, natural ingredients that support oral health, without potentially harmful additives.
It's like we're becoming ingredient detectives, carefully scrutinizing those labels.
Exactly. And it's not just about toothpaste.
Right.
The source also touches on mouthwash,
Okay.
suggesting natural alternatives, or even a simple saltwater rinse.
I've actually tried saltwater rinses before.
Yeah,
Honestly, they're not bad.
I know, right?
It's a bit salty, obviously, but it leaves your mouth feeling clean.
It's an age-old practice for a reason. Yeah. Simple, effective, and affordable.
Okay, so we've got water, toothpaste, mouthwash covered. Any other sneaky sources of fluoride we should be mindful of?
Well, the source reminds us about those food and beverage culprits we discussed earlier.
Right.
Black tea is a big one,
Mm-hmm.
as well as certain types of seafood and processed foods made with fluoridated water.
So maybe swap that afternoon black tea for some herbal tea or opt for fresh whole foods whenever possible.
Those are great strategies, and it's not about being perfect or depriving yourself,
Yeah.
but rather making those small, conscious choices that can add up over time.
Right. It's all about taking back that control. It's not about living in a bubble, but rather being aware of what's going into our bodies and making informed decisions.
Exactly, and even with all these precautions, it's impossible to completely avoid fluoride in the modern world.
Right.
It's in the air, the soil, it's pervasive.
Yeah, it's everywhere, true. But the goal isn't necessarily zero fluoride. It's about conscious exposure. We're not helpless victims. We have agency over our health.
I love that. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about understanding the potential risks, weighing them against any perceived benefits,
Uh-huh.
and making choices that feel right for you.
This has been quite the journey, I feel like. We've gone from just basic fluoride facts to a much deeper understanding of its complexities and how it interacts with our lives.
I agree. Me too.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your own exploration. We've provided some food for thought, some tools to get you started.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about you continuing to research,
Right.
ask questions,
Uh-huh.
and make those decisions that align with your values and priorities.
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface here,
We have.
and there's so much more to discover.
There is.
But for now, I think we've provided a pretty solid foundation to empower you on your fluoride journey.
Well said. And as always, we encourage you to reach out with your thoughts,
Yes.
questions, and experiences.
Please do.
We're all on this learning journey together.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of yourselves.